talking about 3 reasons why you're going bankrupt in your business or how you get there. If you join me for the first time, my name is Brad Hogan. I'm a business guy here in Central Florida, and this is season 3, episode 8.
It's great to be with you. We are in a great group together called C12, where you and I learn a lot together. I've been in business for 25 years. I'm an import, born and raised in South Africa. Graduated as a chartered accountant, which is South African for CPA. But I had a little crisis going there at the end of my last year. Didn't want to be an accountant. I was more interested in the future than recording the past. I came over to America and said, hey, how can I use my skills to help people? And it was about helping them shape their futures. And thinking about business, thinking about money, thinking about people's dreams and what is it they want to accomplish. I don't know about you, but I started my business because I had a dream and I wanted to make a difference. I was looking for an economical platform to do that on. And I kind of liked the entrepreneurial spirit. Again, accounting to me was just recording other people's fun. And I wanted to have some fun and put some numbers on the board and see how I can build an organization and how the dream can take shape by the type of organization I'm building.
So did you know right out of school you wanted to be a financial planner?
No, I had no idea. Like I said, I knew I wanted to be in business because I liked the wheeling and dealing aspect of it and connecting with people and money. So I went to my dad, who was an actuary, which is a mathematician and an insurance company.
Boy, those guys are smart, but that's boring, man. Come on.
So I asked him, I said, hey, what would you do? He said, well, go get the best business degree in South Africa, which was becoming a chartered accountant, And so I said, okay. And really, it took me 5 years to figure out, it's not for me.
So you did that for 5 years?
5 years, man, 5 years. Yes. Got my degrees and heck of a background, heck of a education. Really teaches you a lot about business. But the real lesson, as you know, it happens in the streets. It happens being a business owner.
So did you have a family when you came over here? Or just
No,
you and your wife?
Just me and my wife.
But still the courage it took to...
Well, it wasn't so much courage in me. It's like if you really was seriously with these questions, like I became real serious because I had a problem. My problem was in my end of my 5th year, I had a lot of student loans. I was going to get married at the end of the year to my beautiful wife now. I had a scholarship with Ernst & Young to do auditing for 3 years, which you could put a gun to my head and shoot my brains out now. And I just realized, hey, this is not for me. But it was a crisis. I got debt. I don't know what to do with the future. I'm supposed to give her direction. So I just started praying really hard for 3 months until I got to the end of myself where I said, I'll do anything, everything, even do mission work in China. When you grow up in America, it's Africa. But when you grow up in Africa, it's China, So I always wanted to go to China, go do mission work. I just wanted to know, God, do you have a plan for my life? Do you speak to me? And he did. He spoke to me in such a profound way that was the infusion of the courage to go pursue something different. And then you have to take a step of faith. Opening up a business is a huge step of faith. You got to take a step of faith. And we're talking about, today we're talking a lot about like, hey, maybe the headwinds is in your face. Maybe you're starting to feel that, hey, this is not working out. You're going to have a decision to be made here very, very soon. The decision is going to be like, I'm going to call it quits, or you have to make a decision to dig much deeper.
Well, as we talk about 3 reasons why potentially you go out of business, I think about the 2 that I've always, been taught is the 2 primary reasons why you go out of business: undercapitalized or mismanaged. And I think 2 things fit in there. Undercapitalized can really be mismanaged. You sucked all the money out of the business, so you're undercapitalized.
Exactly.
And it's really mismanaged. And sometimes, in defense of the business owner, mismanaged can be you don't know what you don't know. If you didn't know there's recourse on something, or, there's something in there, you've got to be smart and you got to get the people around you and you've got to test all this stuff. But one thing you're talking about right now is sucking all the cash out of the business. There's a very, very high failure rate in the trades industry when they get past a certain level. And it's like, well, wait a minute, hold on. So the guy that's got a $5 million business is those guys as a whole are super successful. The guys over 7 million have a higher failure rate. Why is that? Well, I know why. They're tradesmen. They're not business guys. And they do exactly what you just said. They suck all the cash out. They bought the house. They bought the new truck. They bought the boat. They bought and it's like, man, I mean, I make those guys cry. They're like, yeah, I'm sitting on, $1.5 million. And I'm like, well, okay. You need about $1.8 million before tax just to fund the growth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's no money in your pocket. And they're like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see this every day because this is what you do. Talk to that.
Well, I talk a lot about how I can help people just fix it. And a lot of it has to do with the somewhat delayed gratification. So I ask people to slow down their thinking for at least 6 months. So a lot of times when we talk to the business owner, we start looking at the debt. There's personal debt, there's business debt, and the cash flow hasn't caught up with them yet. So the success is a vortex. It's a positive vortex. It sucks you up. And so you accelerate your decision making for personal stuff. Looking at the business is going to crank out more, doesn't crank out, so we grab some more. So what's going on is decision making is just accelerated. So what we need to do is to slow the decision making down. Depending upon the level of business debt as well as personal debt, you got to pay the piper. We are not the U.S. government who never pays the piper.
Just print more money.
That's right. We actually have to pay the piper. And paying the piper for you might be that you have to take a step back, slow down, go get your gratification somewhere else. Go get your, go deal with your search for significance or your search for meaning or your search for love and acceptance really through your faith is the most secure way to go do that. Sit yourself down and your wife and say, look, we have dreams that are beyond this mirage of chasing the Joneses. What is real important to us? And are we willing to pay the price? The price is to slow your thinking down. The price is to get a little bit more disciplined. The price is to build the structure into the way you think about it. A lot of times, this might sound self-serving, but this is a good time to hire a financial advisor, right? Or hire a business coach. I'm a pretty educated guy, but I can tell you, I've had a business coach for the last 25 years straight.
I'm big on it. I've got 2.
Yes.
What happens is it's different points, right? Technology. I don't know anything about technology. I need to know all about that. So I go get the best people I can find. Teach me this. I need to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always something.
And that comes back to your point of like, there's a point in time in your business where you're transitioning from a technician to a manager. And from a manager,
that's a big one. That's a really big one.
It is. And so, one of the programs I follow called EOS talks about the manager or the owner creates the gap. And the biggest difference between the technician and the manager role is in the technician, I step into the gap all the time. I fix. When the management role is I create the gap for my team to step in. It's more about transitioning to the business of roofing, or it's more about people. It's a transition. You become more educated how to work with people more so than with roofs, right? So most of my very successful roofing guys, they haven't hammered a nail in for many, many years, but they in the people business, right? So we learn how to coach and encourage our team members. People in your business is the key driver, okay? So I might transition to that for a moment if I could. The 3 top things to keep you from bankruptcy or to help you accelerate the growth, whether you're pressing through Mach 1 or Mach 2 or wherever you are, the 3 key ingredients is number 1, direction. Direction essentially is your vision.
Are you talking about having a plan, a business plan?
I'm talking about having a clear vision for you personally and how that integrates with your business. Then that translates into a 10-year plan, 3-year plan, and a 1-year plan. If you can articulate that, and again, I use coaches and tools. You and I talk a lot about EOS as a great tool, entrepreneurial operating system. fantastic tool that we use that helps me create that, the 1 year, the 3 year, and the 10 year. Now that vision is very important for me. All right. It's very, very important for my team. And the reason it is because sometimes in the mornings, the previous night or day, I got just really knocked down hard. Okay. So I got to find them a motivation inside. I got to find the inspiration and the encouragement to continue to go on the next day. So if my personal why is connected to my business why, it's there. Okay.
Yeah.
At the same time, the vision becomes a little clearer and it's kind of pulling me up. But then I got to communicate that with my entire team. When I hire a new person, if I am able to communicate, this is what we stand for, and this is what we believe in, and this is our values, and this is where we're going, it becomes so much clearer for them to see, okay, I can see what this business owner is about. I can see the values. I like the values, and I can see what he has in mind. Now, it gives them the opportunity then to step in with you, right next to you, to be able to make that dream come alive. Because most people are wired to see something being built, something to succeed, a difference to be made, especially if you can articulate the way that you want to help your clients, your customers, what impact you want to make for them through your business, okay? Your team members are buying big into that. That's all part of direction.
And that's creating culture.
Correct.
So important. So important. I was with the company yesterday, and I sat in on 3 meetings, and I'm just sitting. I'm observing so I can go help this owner out. There was a new sales call for recruits coming in, and it was all about how much money you can make. And I get it. There has to be some emotion attached, but as I'm writing my notes, where are the core values? What do we stand for? What are we doing here? Are we all just making money here? Is that what it is? So, as I'm going to lunch, I'm talking to these different managers. We're, kind of throughout the day, and they don't know what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking a couple things. And I'm not asking them directly, do we talk about core values? I'm thinking, what else do we talk about? What do we teach? What's that look like once they come in on the onboarding? What are we doing here? Do we have a purpose statement? Do we have a mission statement? What is that? Well, we don't know. I mean, kind of thing. It gives me a sense of direction. Later in the day, as I'm talking to the owner, he said, what do you think? And I said, well, that one conversation, you need to change that. Why don't we make that about the customer? Mm-hmm. How we can help them. Exactly. And he goes, oh man, it's these things. Mm-hmm. And I think it happens in life that we get so ingrained with where I am and what I want and where I'm going, whether we leave God out of the equation or how we got there or what the real mission is. What happened to that? What happened to that mission? You know what I'm talking about.
I love it. I call it turning the M upside down. So the moment you and your mindset moves from the me and to the we, it's turning the M upside down. There's an impetus that makes you do that. Faith gives us a great impetus because we know the gospel and we know what it's about. It's about we, not about me. Success emphasizes me. Significance or impact with my life or being a great steward with my life is all emphasizing we. But business, whether you are a roofer, dentist, financial advisor, accountant, we are in the people business.
100%.
It is about people and human beings. Let's go to the concept of culture for a moment. Culture is all about the way it is around here, the way it feels around here, the feel and the flavor. It's about team. Now, the essence of culture is the corporate values. If you don't have corporate values, it's impossible for the owner to shape the culture. And the owner has to shape the culture for the culture to be there. The culture just doesn't arrive. It takes typically 2 to 3 years for the culture to show up the way that the owner sees it in his mind, but it's connected to the corporate values. Well, it's awesome that you're talking to them about that. I found also, if we think about values, the first is, what is my personal values? What is Hilgardt's values? What does Hilgardt believe in? What does Brad believes in? What does Megan believe in? What do you believe in? What is your personal values? Your corporate values as a business owner is embedded in your personal values. It's an extension of your personal values. Okay? And then the last thing I would encourage you, you're all married and you have kids. Have family values, articulated family values. You and I have got kids that's about the same age.
Yeah.
All right. They're getting married right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, my 20-year-old kids are leaning in so much right now because we established our family values. We have these
Very
bracelets.
cool.
All these guys on my team, my 3 boys, we have all these bracelets and we have these 7 words. Life is more about business, but when we launch our kids for their lives, identity is hugely important. And so again, values comes in and says, this is what the Lamprecht clan is about. This is what we believe in. Okay. So that's the people side. That's the second one, by the way. Direction and then organization. Organization is about the right people in the right seats long term.
As we were growing this last company, we're getting started and trying to maximize everything right in the beginning. I mean, right from the start. What I'm talking about is, just right first week. I'm in there and in the office, and I said, the little girl up front, how many clients she handle? She said, well, I don't know. Let's look it up. About 60. And I said, well, how many can she handle? About 150. I go, well, we need to maximize her. I mean, what you're just telling me is she's only busy a third of the time. You paying her all week?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's getting paid all week. Need to get 150. So the challenge becomes when you got 151, what do?
Yes.
You got to hire another girl? I mean, so what? The girl's not going to be busy 90% of the time? Or do you? Well, that's the constant struggle. And that's what we're talking about the growth is, as we add more and more and more people, are they all maximized?
Yes.
And, I don't know what that principle's called. I was talking about it yesterday. If you have 1,000 employees in your business, do you realize approximately 10%, 100 people will do 50% of the work?
Yes.
So I got 900 people doing 50%.
Yes.
I mean, it's just.
Yes.
So that's why these principles, these values, the culture is so important.
It is. It is critically important. And when you start looking at people too, what's very interesting, by the way, this is the toughest one for me. All right. This has been the toughest one for me in business, is to be able to pull the pieces apart in the evaluation of my team.
What do you mean?
I mean that, sometimes people interview like rock stars and then they don't end up being a great team member. Or I tolerate a significant amount of negatives about a current team member. Or I am the one who's not making the tough decision to let somebody go. So one of my team members is standing in the way of growth. One of my team members is dragging us down. One of the team members has the brakes on while we need to have our foot on the gas. Now look, no organization has to have 100% of their foot on the gas, but a lot of organizations need to have about 75 to 85% of the foot on the gas. So even it's the way you think about your team is who are the ones with their foot on the gas, and there are some with people that have the brake on, but the ratio has got to be right. So again, I tell you, I've read all these books. Jim Collins's book, Good to Great, right people, right seat, long term is like, okay, how do you do it?
Who, not how?
Yeah, how do you actually figure it out? EOS has given me a phenomenal tool called the People Organizer. Essentially, it works like this. You evaluate people on 2 factors. The first factor is how they align with, get this, Brad, you just talked about it. How are the individual team member aligning with the corporate values? If you don't have corporate values, you cannot do this test. You're looking for people, think about it, you're looking for people that is aligned with you and where the organization wants to go. The owner communicates that with corporate values. Here's a fantastic way for you, a great reason why you would take the time to develop corporate values. So you rank how they are lining up with the corporate values. The second one is about whether this team member gets it has the capacity to do it, has a desire to do it. Okay, go back to desire, all right? Just understand that a lot of people are not clear upon their own personal place that they need to be at. So they'll try jobs. Last thing you want on your team is somebody that's trying the job and is uncertain. You should help them try a job somewhere else, okay? Because when you have a team member in there, you want to be sure that person gets it, they want it, and they have the capacity to do it. And if you score any of those three things at a negative, you don't have the person in the right seat. If the value alignment is not there, you have the wrong person.
So what about development? I mean, I've got somebody that's got the desire. I've got somebody that I think is capable, but they're not there yet.
Okay, that's different. So if they want it, they get it, but their capacity is what you have to develop, and they are aligning with your values, absolutely go develop them. But then you know that one I need to develop. All right, that one I need to coach, that one. Because you think about it, your coaching and my coaching is only relevant if the person who's receiving it wants it. You and I can talk all day long, right? But if they're not ready to receive it, if they're not hungry, humble, and smart, right? So you're hungry because you want it. You're humble because you're teachable. You're smart because you know growing as a person, growing in the technical skills here is going to give me an opportunity to excel in this organization. Okay? So those two things is critically important. We do this on a quarterly basis. We evaluate our team members. Now, I will tell you, since I've adopted this system and learned this, I have fired 4 of my team members. We're only 15, okay?
Stop reading.
No, this is very common because most business owner ignores this area. It's difficult. I don't want to fire. I don't want to make a change. And because it's so unclear for most people, they doubt themselves on a consistent basis. You know, there's another quick liner that people throw out. They say, you know what, you and I talk about it at C12. It's like hire slow and fire fast.
Yes.
Why do most people not do that? Is because it takes the ability to know it's time for this person to go. All right. So what happens in most companies is that cancer spreads.
You know, something that my father taught us, I'd talk about this in another video too, is the difference between the guys that have money and the guys that don't. The guys that have money, they call it, they pull the plug, they get out. This is not working. And the guys that, what was it? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. They stay in. They just stay in. They stay with the people. They stay. Change. You've got to be willing to make that change. And, that's what he was teaching us. Don't be afraid to, just take what you got, take a loss, move on, go.
The biggest thing that stood in my way is a lot of times is, oh, geez, now I've got to go through the pain of a transition. And is the right person out there? Remember I said right, not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Have a specific process on how you're vetting somebody before you hire them. Don't hire them after the first interview. We have about 3 interviews before we hire them. And then I discovered, I'm a softie. I got a compassionate heart. Sometimes I would fall for people's stories, or I would just make an emotional decision. So actually now I have my management team sitting with me in the final interview, asking the same questions. And then we rate that person on a scale from 1 to 10. And if they don't rate them at 8, 9, and 10, we're not hiring them. And that's helped me a lot to not to get so emotionally involved. I see the good in people more so than I look at the critical side. And so that's been super helpful for us. But the third thing, coming back to, what we are talking about as far as, if you're in the face of bankruptcy or you got a challenge that's ahead of you, the third biggest thing is really cash. You talked about it. And cash has to do with 2 things in my mind. The one thing it has to do with is available cash. The second thing is cash flow. You mentioned about it, cash flow is the lifeblood of a business. All right, here's the deal. Direction, which is you articulating the vision and having a plan, the right people in the right seat, and your discipline around cash and cash flow, that's 85% of the weight to become successful. So cash flow is just your ability to be able to see it come in and go out. So most of the times business owners now start talking to their accountant. And since I'm a recovering accountant, I can probably say this. So what happens is most business owners are seeing their cash flow in arrears. They're looking back.
It's a rear view mirror.
It's a rear view mirror.
We need the CFO, not the accountant.
You got it. So if your accountant can help get you there, that's awesome. Ask your accountant to get you there. Okay.
Sure.
What makes more sense in your business is cash flow management and looking at how the cash is flowing from the in, right through in the middle to the out. Okay.
So interesting. So yesterday is with this business, I asked the question. I go, is that person really the CFO or is that an accountant? Is what's the difference? And I said, well, rear view mirror. Or are they actually doing modeling? Are they doing cash flow projections? Are we talking about, are we looking at $1 million, $5 million in the bank thinking, okay, we can go do something? Or do we actually have a voice of reason that says, you can't touch that money because 180 days from now, we got this planned or this going on, or this is where we need to be. What are we doing here?
Critically important. And if you're the driver in your business, I don't know about you, Brad, but what happens to me a lot of times, if I close a big sale, man, I want to go buy a watch, I want to buy a car, I want to buy something, I want to go celebrate. And I always kind of laugh at myself. I laugh at myself because I closed the deal, and then next thing I want to go do, I want to go buy something big. But it takes from the deal, the time that I close the deal, the time that I record the sale, to the time that I actually get the money, takes 90 days, sometimes a whole stinking year. Okay? Yeah. So it's like, I got to slow my thinking down before the cash actually shows up. The other thing too that happens is that we go and we show our wives, look how profitable the company is. And she says, well, okay, Mr. Big, you made $1 million. Where is it? Okay. And it's like, you look at your bank account, you go like, well, there's not $1 million in my bank account. What the heck is going on here? Right. So you obviously know that cash is in inventory. It's in buying equipment. So the business is sucking the cash forward for what you would say growth or sustainability or growth. So this is why it's so important to be able to monitor the cash flow. So I just say real easy. Look at cash that's coming. So that's basically your sales hopper. Whatever, create a visual for your sales hopper. Okay, we call the sales hopper sales pipeline. People call that, but create a visual so you know where your future sales lies. My wife is my CFO, my integrator of my business, and I've trained her how to send me a text every single week. In the text in the week, I get an exact accounting of how much cash is in the bank. I also get an idea of what my receivables is and what major expenses is going on. So I can very, very quickly see what's going on today. Where am I today? So maybe once a week, just get an idea of where your cash is at this point in time. And then have a very, very strong look on your receivables. You got to look at your receivables.
Boy, you tell.
Right? Mm-hmm. So your receivables, that will
kill your cash flow.
That's what kills a lot of companies, is that if a team member is not on top of the receivables, that cash is just, how it goes. If anything is longer than 90 days, the chance of you collecting diminishes. And that's what, it just chokes.
You're going to relate to this. So I talk about this. And so I'm in this company. It's growing. I mean, we go from 3 to 10 million to 18 million to 30 million. I mean, we're just, okay. So in the trades, January, February are non-starters. October, November, December, everybody's ready for Christmas kind of thing. Well, the first of the year is always tough. We've paid taxes and, taking what we can take out of the business, and that's what's really going on. The employees don't know. And it's like, everybody get the collections in. Where's all the receivables? So here it is. I'm sitting with the business owner and he says, man, these receivables are killing me. And I said, are we getting better or worse? And he said, what do you mean? I said, are your receivables getting better or worse than they were a year ago? And he said, well, I mean, he pulls it out. And last year we were at, 200,000. This year we're at 300,000. And I said, is it better or worse? And he goes, what do you mean? Last year was 200, this year's 300. And I said, well, do you know what a quick ratio is? We need to know the age of the receivables, and you need to know what your gross revenue is so you can measure whether or not, they're not measuring these things in their business. And we need these little tools. And that's why you need a CFO, somebody that knows, right? You agree with that?
Yeah, amen. Amen. Yeah. You either upgrade your own knowledge by, reading and studying, or you hire people that are much smarter than you in that area. And the power of a CFO, sometimes you have to have a part-time CFO if you can only afford that.
You can do this stuff online now.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. You either learn yourself a little bit, or then you hire a part-time CFO and then you move up to a full-time CFO. But let's go back to what you said about the end of the year and the bonuses. Do I use debt to fuel my own growth, or do I use my own cash to fuel my own growth?
Wait a minute, say it again. Do you what?
Do I use debt to fuel my growth, or do I use my own cash to fuel growth?
Gotcha. Reserves.
A lot of times business owners starts out by borrowing money, right? That's what adds a lot of the stress as well. But you because you don't have cash and you have to borrow some. Now, then it takes discipline to be able to say, look, I'm going to go after that debt and I want to get to ground zero. You can get to ground zero where you are basically funding your operations from cash flow alone without the assistance of a line of credit or any debt. Debt in many ways becomes, it's kind of like sugar. Before you know it, it's eating you alive. So if you don't have a specific discipline against debt, you'll have debt for the rest of your life. You know what the average credit card outstanding debt balance is in America per person?
No.
It's $12,000.
Well, see, I'm above average.
There you go. So, the interest rates right now is crazy. It's like 22% on a credit card. So you think about it, like, why do you have $12,000 of credit card debt at 22% interest you're paying to the bank?
You wouldn't get a car at that rate.
No.
You wouldn't get a house at that rate. Exactly. Why would you pay? And I think people don't equate that.
Correct. So maybe this interest rate environment that's going up so high is irritating you about the current corporate debt. Make a decision today that I want to be debt-free in X amount of years and go after it. So then you're getting into the position. The next stage is where you're running the business from cash flow. Again, if you can get your mind to slow down your growth rate. Now, a lot of times I found this to be true. Most people overestimate what they can get done in 12 months. But thank God they underestimate what they can get done in 3 years. 3 years.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Look, I want to grow. But if I have an idea, I get my calculator out and I say, look, what's more important for me is to grow at a sustainable rate of 10% a year. It might take me a year or 2 years longer, but the growth rate is not going to kill my cash flow and drive me into bankruptcy.
Boy, that's a real thing.
Yes. So I become a little bit more patient with my own progress, and I say, look, I don't know, in South Africa, we heard the story about the rabbit and the hare, and the race between the rabbit and the hare, right? Or excuse me, the rabbit and the turtle. And so the turtle eventually wins. It's just more patient because it's continually building on compounding. So, right, I go after a sustainable 10% growth rate. I will eventually get there, okay? Nobody cares how quick you get there, by the way, right? When you become successful, they don't like you, they hate you, they are jealous of you. Just side note.
Always.
Yes. So if they don't care, why the heck do you care so much? It's just a function of getting there eventually. Anyway.
And it's trying to get there in one piece.
Exactly.
Well, I tell you what, when we talk about this growth, we talk about this growth that's so fast. I mean, there's killers in there from the standpoint of cash flow. And if there's not a line of credit or something in there, it just eats cash.
Yes.
So what happens today is a more sustainable business model is I've gone to these smaller, whether it's SBUs, small business units, or whether it's other companies that I'm acquiring that are smaller. People are wondering why would you buy 10 companies at 10 million and not just have one big $100 million company? Well, I kind of do under one umbrella, but what it does when I get the little businesses at 10 million, their cash flow, their profit, they can profit at 20%, where if I've got one big machine that's doing 100 million, believe it or not, my profit's closer to 10.
Wow.
I mean, it's half the money.
Yeah. So you think about,
and it's because there's not the overhead.
Correct. It's called the economical S-curve. So you're a little bit lower on the S-curve, and the pitch of appreciation and value appreciation is huge in profitability. But a lot of times I come back to this. Have any of you guys ever had your wife sit you down on a couch and says, "I don't know you anymore"?
That's not a good conversation.
No, it's not. Or I'm not sure I love you anymore. Have you ever had that conversation? So when you have these moments where, as guys, we tend to be so focused on performance and growth, and we want to be like the next razzmatazz guy that they write about, or, this guy scaled up his company at this rate, blah, 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 blah. If the woman lying next to you in bed doesn't know you anymore, your relationship starts wobbling, and you lose this relationship. Hey, who cares about the guy that's razzmatazz and has growth this company and scaled up? At times you have to look at life. You got to go back to life. You got young kids. You got kids at different phases of life. Look, make a decision to grow your company. Make a decision to survive the challenges ahead. Pick a sustainable rate. Get on your financial calculator, look at compounding. You will get there eventually. It might take a little bit more time than you anticipated, but you'll get there with your wife alongside you, with your kids alongside you. They're going to be people that cares about your success because they care about you and what you've built in the meantime. That is like 10 times more important, I think, than trying to be the rock star guy that got to a level of success quicker than anybody else.
100%. You got to arrive intact, and so many times the wheels fall off the deal.
But the final thought on the cash I would share to you is this. If you have the ability where you have profit in your company, go take that profit, find the balance between how much you're distributing to yourself as bonuses and to your team. But use a strong portion of that capital. I'm going to give you two things that's very, very important to fund. The first thing you need to fund is you need to create a reserve fund for risk. For risk. The more and more you grow your company, the more and more risky it becomes. The more and more risky it has, the bigger the shock absorber needs to be. It means more money in your checking account. It means more cash in your reserve account, okay? It's very, very important. Like every year, put 20, 30, 50, 100,000, 200,000 into a bucket that is liquid cash that gives you the ability to sustain. Get through COVID, as an example. Or buy companies when the whole economy is crashing because you got some dry powder ready to go.
Yep.
The second thing is when you have an idea how much it's going to take for you to grow at a certain rate, you're going to get an inclination as to how much cash it's going to require. You're very good at this, Brad. You help a lot of business owners really figure that one out. Well, listen, instead of being dependent all on the line of credit or lending institutions or SBA, all right, you have some of this cash that you're utilizing to fuel your growth. The moment I transitioned over to that, the level of stress went down 300% for me. Imagine this. You're starting the year, January 1. You got $500,000 sitting in an account, and that's the fuel of your own cash that you're going to deploy this year to grow your company. How much less stress is that than you having $500,000 from an SBA loan or line of credit with an interest rate and a time clock on it?
Yeah, now we're worried about paying it back, and we've got to fuel the cash flow. Yeah, it's so much easier.
I look at the business owner because I work with the business every year, and I'll look at their levels of stress. And I'll look at, everything that is on their shoulders, right? There's good reasons. The statistics. There's only about 5%. Of 100 people that start a company, 10 years later, 90 have failed out. There's only 10 left. 5 years later, of that 10, there are 3 that are making decent money. There's 1 that's making great money. One out of 100 people make great money after they've launched. And I'll tell you, great money is very relative for most people, but I'm going to say it's $500,000 or more in income, right? That's great money in my mind. Only 1. So it's going to take a price. It's going to take structure. It's going to take, go back here, it's going to take vision or direction. It's going to take the right team, and it's going to have the right disciplines on cash flow, as well as the cash that you have aside to grow the company.
Boy, that's a whole nother segment. Whoa, what are you talking about that? I appreciate you, chewing the fat with me today and talking about what it takes in business. There's so much more to it. And we'll put a link in the description where you can find Hilgardt. Man.
You're very welcome. It's great. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this program. You really are doing a phenomenal job for guys, and your experience and knowledge is helping guys to succeed, in moving from a tradesman, if you would, to a manager and then to an entrepreneur.
That's tough.
It is tough.
That's tough.
It's tough.
It's good, man. Hey, appreciate you guys. Love you. See you in the next one.